I'm like a vampire myself. I'm hungry. I need to feast. Specifically on Bloodlines 2 news. It's been a little while. It's been a couple of weeks since we've gotten an update on this game. We had a couple of weeks in a row of playable clan reveals. And then the studio took a break for Thanksgiving. A little bit odd. They're not even American. They're in the UK. Their publisher is European. But any excuse to have a day off, I suppose. But now, at the PC Gamer Most Wanted show, we've got the third playable clan reveal, and it is the Banu Hakim. Hopefully I've got that pronunciation right. But of course, they tell us all about the post-release DLC. That's always the first point they want to get across. Not tell us about the gameplay of this new clan, what we're going to be getting in the release. It's all about what you can spend money on after the game comes out. Your $70 will not go far. If you want to get the next two clans, the two additional after the first four, probably the ones most casual fans are familiar with, at least of the original Bloodlines game, like Nosferatu, for instance, you will need to spend more of your cash. We've got another video here. Always the good old video, and I'll tell you what, we are spoiled for content this time around. We got 15 seconds the last two times, but hold your horses, we are getting 4 times the content this week. This vid is 60 seconds, and we're going to watch it.
Tell me, Willem, what rumors have you heard about me?
That you were there in Cairo.
We're off to a good start this time around. We've got a video of footage they've already shown us in a prior trailer. It's almost like so little work has been done on the game that they're just recycling anything they can left, right, and center. They were clowned on, they were laughed at for those 15-second videos. So to try and extend it to now 57 seconds, let's throw in some old footage. That'll be good. Now, I did see some comments suggesting that the reason they're showing this off once more, Fire, the main character, and then also Willem, who you can see here on the screen, is because they've improved the performance here, the lip sync, the character animations. But I've got to ask, why did they think it was acceptable only a few weeks ago, but then after people said, yeah, this looks crap, suddenly they were able to improve it? It really just seems to me like they're scrambling to get any footage together. Barely any work has been done, and if the game was years from release, if there was no release date, they just decided to show this off early, get it out there, get it amongst fans for feedback, I'd criticize it less. But this is coming out in a year's time, maybe even less than a year, fall 2024. It could be as early as September, I believe. So the fact that they're scrambling already less than 12 months out, that's got to be worrying. I don't think there's much at all that they've actually created for this game, and that's why they struggled to even get 15 seconds of footage, at least in the last two clan reveals, this time 60 seconds, but only achievable because they're recycling old content.
You're the Slayer.
And what will I be to you,
Oh,
Willem?
those facial animations are fierce.
Forgotten warehouse.
Here we go. We've got some actual footage of the new clan now, it looks like. Stalking the rooftops. Stalking your prey. We've got the shootout. We've got the stealth. We've got the attack. We've got the new combat animation as well, it looks like. There we go, the Banu Hakim.
Exactly what he said you'd be. I guess that makes it easier.
Back to the old footage
What
again.
happens next?
Yep, that's it. Let's close it out. So let's be really, really honest. Let's be fair. It's 57 seconds, 4 times what we got in the previous clan reveals. But if you remove this cutscene, this dialogue of Fire and Willem, you end up with the same 15 seconds again. Nothing has really changed. If we're really generous and we really just scrounge, we desperately try and give them the benefit of the doubt, you might be able to stretch the playable scenery to about 20 seconds, but pretty much the same thing. It seems like once again, they probably had a week or two to work on something that they had to show us. Maybe the Chinese room, they made a deal with Paradox, the publisher, that they had to start showing information, sharing it, so there'd be a bit of a marketing campaign. And then back at the studio, where the magic happens, they thought, ah, shit, we've got 1 week to cobble something together. Let's see if we can muster 15, 20 seconds of footage, show it to fans, maybe they'll be off our back. Paradox, the publisher, leave us alone. We can go, oh, phew, let's have another rest. I truly believe that they are building these little bits of footage purely for these little showcases. I don't think that they've got dozens and dozens of hours of gameplay sitting there that they could show us. I don't think that they can just boot up the game, hit record, and present this. I really don't think there's much of a game at all. They are building these snippets purely to make it seem like they have something, that the game is in a playable state. It's not the case. If they had more, they'd be showing it to us. Enthusiasm is dead. They are at rock bottom. They've got nothing. If they had anything to show us, they would. They've genuinely got nothing. And if we go back to the reveal, let's see what other juicy details they've got for us. So who are these Banu Hakim? Cursed with a thirst for the blood of other vampires, the Banu Hakim stalk the night as judges and lawbringers. To this end, most Banu Hakim adhere to a strict code of conduct, derived from law, faith, or personal ethics, sating their hunger on those that breach these convictions. Now, once again, the 20 seconds of gameplay, it shows off some moving around combat animations, but nothing about the personality. They never managed to get across this text into the gameplay footage. It's a nice couple of sentences, but it never translates into the game that we're actually spending money on. And that's where the disconnect is. It's fine that you've got a couple of writers, a couple of sales, marketing people who can push this crap out, but unless I see this in the game for myself, I don't believe it. I'm looking to experience the game, and right now it's all talk, it's zero substance. But what can we expect from playing a Banu Hakim? They take the role of a strategic stalker, using shadows to their advantage. You are a predator on a hunt, and your disciplined powers, they focus on stalking, assassination, and silently moving faster than your foes can track. Again, it all sounds interesting, but a year out from release, why can they not show us more of this stealth in action? All we saw in the vid was someone crouching, walking along a roof, and then someone basically running towards a shooting henchman, and then he punched him, knocked him out, disposed of him. Nothing really to suggest there are stealth mechanics that are built and are functioning, working right now. Until I see some of that, some of the UI. Why haven't we seen a skills menu where we can pick some of these skills related to maybe stalking, assassination, silently moving? There's none of that. There's just a really blink if you miss it piece of footage. And apparently we just need to take their word for it, that these mechanics, they're all in there. They're not going to show them off to us. That'd be way too much. For now, it's 15 seconds. We just have to assume that this is all there. We do have another screenshot of Fire, the main character's model in-game. I will say it's an improvement. At least the haircut is covered up by the hoodie and the hat. I imagine that's by design. Someone there, they've got our back. They know how atrocious it all is. So maybe this should be the outfit of choice for most people. Another screenshot, as usual. It's a screenshot that isn't really like the art direction we've actually seen in the footage. That looks pretty generic, boring. These screenshots are better, but they're not really reflective of what's going to be in the game. Now, there is more I'm going to show you, but just so we know what's coming in the future as well, they're going to be back in December for the next clan reveal. That's the last one we're going to get on release. Any other clans they show us post that, you're going to have to buy them for more money after the game comes out. Lucky us. But following the holiday break going into January 2024, they'll be going into depth on each playable clan during the opening months of the new year. So that really suggests to me, hey, we've got nothing. The playable clans we've told you about, we've barely built anything. Come see us next year and maybe we'll be able to show you a bit more. That is what it is sounding like. There was actually something else. There was a Dev Diary recap where they went over Fire, the main character, and the narrative. It is a 22-minute video. I don't want to bore you, put you to sleep by watching the whole thing, but I have seen it, and there's a decent post on the Bloodlines subreddit that breaks it down. This will make it a bit easier. We can go over the main points and see what might be interesting. There was an observation I made that was intriguing as well, which was there's more people following Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines than there are following Vampire the Masquerade in general. I think it proves that there's a lot of people who don't really care about Vampire the Masquerade as a whole. They just want a good video game that is in line with Bloodlines. And it seems like the Chinese room, they don't really give a shit about Bloodlines. They just want to make a vampire game that suits them. And they need to understand that is not acceptable. You have sold us on a sequel to the original Bloodlines, a cult classic, a well-made role-playing game, and we expect that. You make something else, people are going to shit on you, and it's understandable. You can't call them entitled fans. You cannot have your cake and eat it too by saying, oh, they expect too much. They want something like Bloodlines. We just want to do our own thing. Well, don't call it Bloodlines then. Call it literally anything else, and most people won't care. But Bloodlines 1 has a legacy, and you're trying to get money, get sales off of that legacy. So you need to respect it. Now, I will be fair, the recap itself, what they talk about, it's not bad. It's not as if they embarrass themselves completely and just talk shit. They clearly have no idea what people want. They say the right things, and some of the fans have started to come around to them and start going, oh, this is what we want to hear. I'm starting to get hyped up again. But this is an issue, because it's so easy for them to just get on a call, no gameplay footage, purely just a video call where they have a chat and just say the game's going to be great, you're going to be able to interact, role-playing game mechanics, choices, exploration, the world, the engagement, it's all going to be fantastic. Very easy to say that. Another thing to actually build it into the game, get it into our hands and have it be functional. This should just be obvious at this point. It's not purely the Chinese room, it's just any game where they promise the world, they release it, and it's nothing like what they said. I thought gamers would be somewhat immune to this bullshit by now, because it happens time and time again. And if you think of Bloodlines 2 and what we've been shown, imagine if it was a Kickstarter. If these guys had gotten the rights to Bloodlines, thrown up a Kickstarter and said, here's what we've got now, 15 seconds of footage. If we add it all together, let's be generous, a couple of minutes in total. If they showed us that and said, hey, give us money to develop this game that's going to release in 2024, most people would say, you're having a laugh, you must think we're idiots, because it is painfully obvious that there's not really a game here, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. I've said this a few times now, that they show us a video, they show us a character seemingly moving around, engaging in mechanics, but I don't believe that it's actually playable. And let's look at this. This is an incredible video. I'm not throwing shade on this video at all. It's hilarious, it's funny. It's basically a fan-made game of Better Call Saul, the TV show. And you're gonna see what I mean. Again, it's extremely well done. It's the original Game Boy. You can select your character here. Do you want to be Jimmy? Do you want to be Kim? Do you want to be Mike? And then as you sort of go through, there is gameplay. You've got Saul running around. He's going to shoot his enemies. It's a bit like Mario Brothers. But the key here is, obviously, the person who made this video, incredibly well-made video, it's just a graphic. It's not like they actually developed a Game Boy game and then set it all up for this video. It's just meant to be in good fun footage that looks like a Game Boy game. And I'm showing you this because that is pretty much what I think they've done with Bloodlines 2. They've just created animations that look like gameplay, but it isn't actually a thing. You can't actually play it. They've created animations, and that's about it. I could be wrong. I could have my tinfoil hat on. I could be a conspiracy theorist. But that is what I really think, and some of the nostalgia for the Heartsuit Labs version, where people bring up old screenshots that look decent, there's dialogue choices and so on, it was probably the same thing, because Paradox would not have pulled the plug, wasted all their money, if there was actually something functional there that was decent. The game was apparently a total mess. It didn't work. If that was bad, and it at least looked good, how bad is this going to be, where they struggle to even just show us something in video that looks good? How could it possibly be of quality? Now, if we look at this developer diary recap, the recap of that 22-minute video I mentioned that they put together earlier, they say things like they're making each clan very unique, which is why there are a few of them to play as. Classic marketing line, we're giving you less, but here's the good reason for it. Here's why it's a positive. There's barely any clans, but they're going to be so unique. Now, if we be realistic, the only thing they've actually confirmed, at least from what I can see, is that the gameplay and combat might be a bit different across the clans. There'll be a stealth one, there'll be a brutal one where you can get in people's faces, smash them, use a few spells. And then the outfits that they mentioned. And all clans end up being able to wear the same outfits anyway, so that's not really a difference. I don't think there's anything to suggest the actual gameplay experience, the quests and so on, will be heavily influenced by your clan choice. Not gonna believe it until I see it. Each clan will have different role-playing experience, more of the same, doesn't mean anything. The reputations of each clan will either help you or hurt you. Sounds fine, but how in-depth is this actually going to be? Is it going to just be that different clans are slightly saltier with you? There's maybe a line or two of text to suggest they're unhappy, but outside of that, everything's the same? Or is this going to be deep and meaningful? Fine to say it, you need to present something. Characters will have preconceptions of what you're supposed to be like, based on your clan, but you're free to act against those expectations. The example given was how you're free to play a calm bruiser, but other characters will think you're weird. Okay, I mean, if they do this, I just hope it's throughout the whole game, because I just see sometimes in RPGs where some of the reactivity will be there in the first couple of hours. As the game goes on, it just kind of disappears. It becomes too much work to manage all those moving parts, manage all the choices you've made earlier in the game. Nice to say it, but we do need to see what you're going to do across the course of the game. The player has complete control over establishing Fire's backstory. You'll be asked to flesh out the kind of person she was and kind of things she did before the game began. Is this actually going to affect the gameplay, or is there like a notes area of the menu screen where you can just put in some text? Is it going to be fluff, or is it going to affect the game? I'm thinking it's probably just going to be fluff, if we're being honest. You will have a wide variety of ways to roleplay when socializing with others. You can use your status as Elder to hold younger vampires down as people expect an Elder to behave, or you can try to win everyone over for your own benefit. I mean, this is standard RPG stuff. If you remove the word Elder and you just sort of say character, I mean, you should expect to be able to influence the direction of your character and how you interact with the other NPCs. So basically, just make it a competent role-playing game. That's all they really need to do. That's going to be a lot of work for this studio. They don't have the experience, and they haven't really shown they can do it outside of just having a chat in a meeting. I've worked for a number of software companies, and I will say this, the easiest thing that software companies can do, not just in games, but in any industry, is promise things that don't yet exist. It's so easy to talk, to actually deliver, to build this into the game, into the program, get it out there and it works. That is extremely difficult, and that is what they struggle with, the implementation. So do not believe this. Do not just blindly say or think that they're just saying the right things. Until it's delivered, it means absolutely nothing. The purpose is to get you to pre-order, to buy the game. It's got nothing to do with what the product is actually going to be like. They have to build it. They've got to get to work. It doesn't seem like they've done a lot of work. There will be consequences to the choices you make for Fire's background. Her reputation will follow her to Seattle. Okay, so this comes back. I mentioned earlier the background stuff could be fluff or not. They seem to be saying here that it isn't just going to be fluff. Hopefully that is the case. They actually do build that in. Your reputation will be affected by more than just talking. How you act as a predator will also be remembered. So I guess that might be things like if you're a stealth character, maybe if you kill and the bodies are just left there for witnesses to see, maybe that will affect something. It really just depends how interesting this is. If it's just you do a quest, you kill someone along the way, you leave the body out for everyone to see, and that results in the quest giver not being happy. He's annoyed and he says, hey, I know what happened there, you left the body out, now I'm only going to give you 1 blood vial as a reward instead of 2. If that's the case, that'd be pretty boring. I'd want to see more reactivity than that. Clans have relationships with each other, and your clan will impact your ability to work with specific characters. I hope that isn't purely locking you out of content. I mean, it's a nice change from, say, a Skyrim where you can just be the head of the Fighters Guild, the head of the Mages Guild. Your character build doesn't matter. That's pretty stupid. It's nice for there to be some consequence there based on the type of build your character has or the choices that you make, but I hope there's something unique to this. Maybe something like if you are with a clan that an NPC doesn't like, maybe you have to do additional quests to prove yourself, whereas if they do like you, maybe they give you a different type of quest to do because they trust you. That sort of stuff. I want it to affect the content, not just be blocking you out of things for the sake of it. Manipulating other characters requires you to be able to read them. Some characters respond to charm and others will need to be physically intimidated. Again, it all comes down to the implementation. It could be interesting, or it could be like the Oblivion dialogue system, the persuasion system, where it's a silly mini-game. I hope it's a bit more than that. Some characters have eyes everywhere, and the player has to carefully decide when to show anyone their full hand. It sounds really interesting. I hope they deliver on this. I'm not setting out to hate the game. I want them to get it right. It's just everything they've shown suggests that that will not be the case. Sentences like this, they sound interesting, but how do you develop that into the game? I want to see it. They mention Mass Effect. They mention the whole thing around Renegade or Paragon, meaning that you could go all in on the evil sort of decisions or the good ones, but they're trying to say there'll be more nuance, that you should base each decision on its merits rather than just blindly go down one path. That's a good thing. I don't like the idea that I'm just going to be a renegade, I'm going to be evil, and then all your choices are basically predetermined. Every time you go to make a decision, you just automatically look for the evil option. That's kind of boring, but that also comes down to the game design. The best thing that they can do is make it where you're not really sure what the evil or the good option is. In Mass Effect, they kind of color-code it, which kind of dumbs that down, but nothing's better in an RPG when you've got a choice to make and you get up and start pacing around. You don't know which option to choose, what's going to suit your character or what you kind of feel good about. So it's a good mindset to have, but I'm not sure how they'll deliver on it. Vampire Society in Bloodlines 2, it's built around manipulation, and the endings will be impacted by your ability to play everyone else harder than they can play you. I just wish they'd actually show off more than this. They're talking here not so much about the combat. I know they mentioned it's a narrative dev diary, but they're having one before they've really shown anything in game. They've shown off basically one dialogue screen, one conversation between Fire and, was it that Nosferatu? That was really it. It looked bare bones, and I'm just not convinced that it's going to be this in-depth on the narrative front if they can't even present it 12 months out, maybe 11 months out from release. The gameplay's role-playing systems are tied to the tabletop game, whatever. The writers had to do heavy research before their writing. I honestly think, like what happens a lot these days, there are plenty of people on the team who have never played Bloodlines 1. I would not be shocked to hear that. It seems like they use it as a flex sometimes to be like, no, I don't need to bring myself down to the level of consuming the original piece of media we're making a sequel to. Think about, like, the Witcher TV show. I think there was some bragging that they hadn't read the books or even played the games. They were going to just do their own thing, their own interpretation. So let's see what heavy research means. If it means really getting into the setting, in my opinion, just play Bloodlines 1. Make something similar. That's all I really care about. They talk a bit more, but what was a little worrying to me is the most upvoted comment here, the most liked comment, was honestly, especially compared to the first recappy thing, they did another one a week or two ago where it was just going through concept art. It was pretty boring. I don't think I even talked about it. It was so dull. And then he says, that actually makes the game more interesting again. If they do it, good. Now, I just don't want people to get blindly excited. I know it might seem like I'm just hating on this game. No matter what they can do, they can't win. They say some good stuff in the dev diary, and I'm not just utterly praising them. Again, the reason I do it is I just do not trust developers who haven't delivered for, and I don't think that's a bad mindset. If a company, a games company, do actually prove themselves, then I will always give them the benefit of the doubt. Larian Studios, we all know if they announce a new game, even if they don't show us much, we trust in them to deliver. From Software, CD Projekt Red were that for a little while, after Witcher 3, everyone was ready for the next thing, no matter what they did or said. Everyone was hyped for Cyberpunk, but then at release, they broke trust, and it's very hard to win that trust back. It's hard to build it up, as the Chinese room are finding. You can't just come out, say a few things, and expect everyone to be blatantly hyped. Unfortunately, some people are. It's why pre-ordering works. They know they can say the right things, and there'll be a few dumbasses who part with their money, spend it, despite being burnt before. But I just hope that people keep that in mind. Look at the footage of what they've actually developed and built, and then you compare that to what they're saying. The footage sucks in comparison to what they're saying here. All that says to me is the game will come out and it will underwhelm, because you can't translate these words on a bit of paper into a functional game for us to play and enjoy. If they do it, I'll eat my words. I will make a commitment. If they release the game and it has very positive reviews or above on Steam, I will gift 5 copies of the game out to random people, and I'll prove that I've done it. I wouldn't even be salty about doing it, because if the game actually comes out and it's good, I'd want to support it. I'd want to see more. I'd want to support these devs. I just don't think it's going to be the case. It has hot mess written all over it. If we were looking at an example of what's a game with red flags, this would be it. This is Exhibit A for a title that has absolutely everything wrong going for it. It was being developed by one studio, the plug was pulled, the publisher hastily gave it to a new dev, told them to rush the game out, they promised that they could. They're getting it out with probably 3 years of dev time, and they've got nothing to show for it right now. If it's good, it'll probably be the biggest shock to me. There's games by indie devs who've got zero experience in the games medium that I've got more faith in than these guys, because the cards, everything is just stacked against them. And from here, we're basically looking at a week's time. We get that next update, the last clan out of the original 4. I'm sure it's going to be special, and then it's probably going to be the new year that we actually get more news. It's going to be quite a ride, I'm sure. There's going to be plenty of laughs along the way, at the very least. If the game sucks, at least we get a bit of comedy. If it's good, we can be shocked, we can be pleasantly surprised. But thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, bye.